So, welcome to another edition of The Walking Dead All-Out War from Rage Against the Dice. That's us. It's me, Kevin, again. I'm doing the anatomy of a card today. So, this is Rick Grimes. This is probably the most well-known character on The Walking Dead. Certainly, you know, the main character. In terms for the most part, anyway. It does centre around other characters, but you mainly follow Rick's struggle from waking up in a hospital and then the journey he takes. Without spoiling it too much, he survives.
I was about to say, from the anatomy of a card, you've gone into a synopsis of
the show and the obviously the comic books, which this is based on. But so yeah, I'll get back to it. So at the top here, you have his name, which is Rick Grimes. This particular one is the Atlanta camp leader. Now, this implies, and certainly if you've got any of the other sets, you do know that there are other versions of Rick Grimes that are out there. Some of them, you know, are different in terms of different stats, different skills. We're looking at specifically the anatomy of a card more than the anatomy of this card. We will cover the difference in the different Ricks, the different Carls, etc. as we move forward. But today it's just about showing you what's on a card and what it does. So under that, so it goes Grimes, Atlanta camp leader, which version he is. Then underneath, this particular Rick Grimes is a tactician. There's different sort of skill types. There's Rick Grimes just popped into shot there. But so there's tactician and there's bruiser and such. And again, there's something we'll cover separately what they do and what the point in them is in a different video. But this particular card is a tactician, and that is where you would look on other cards to see what type of character they are. Now, and this is something I really like about this. You have your melee, your shoot, and your defensive stat, but instead of it being a number, so your defense 3 or your shoot 6, it shows the die or dice that you would roll when doing that. So in melee, Rick, as standard, would roll 1 white die, plus any equipment that he has would add extra die. Now, what this means is it means that new people getting into the game... I had a moment there. New people getting into the game who've never played a war game before can quite easily look at that and go, well, I know I need to roll 1 white die when I'm in melee. Instead of having to go, right, my melee is 3 and your melee is 4, so I roll this die and I add this together. It's good for more experienced gamers, that kind of thing, but when you're just starting out, that's perfect. You look at it and go, I roll 1 white die, a walker rolls 1 red, and we compare off the score. With this, his shoot value is 1 blue die. Now, the blue die at the moment is the best die you can roll in terms of actual points, you know, and not blanks. It's something we'll go into in more detail because I think the die are really cool with this. The dice certainly need to be covered on their own. But yeah, so you have red, white, and blue. Red being the worst, white middle, and then blue are obviously your top dice. And then underneath you've got your nerve. Now, the higher a nerve on a character, the less likely they are to run away, to, you know, fail and panic and do other things. And it adds a good level to this that you don't necessarily have in other games. Rick, again, as I said, the threat tracker only goes up to high or game over. So Rick's not running away, really. But you get a lot of low-level characters. You get kids in this, which are going to be scared. And it adds an element of, right, well, if the threat's at this level, what are these going to do? Again, it's something that we need to cover in more detail because I think it's such a good mechanic. Covering it during the anatomy of a card really doesn't do it justice. Underneath there, then we have the health. And it's just your standard health tracker. So this card has 6 health. And you move the little token along it. So every time Rick takes a point of damage, you would just move it 5, 4, 3. You know, basically how counting works, but backwards. And then when he gets to the little zombie face, he would then turn into a walker, which is pretty cool. There's also a mechanic where if you get bitten by a walker, you flip your token over and it's got a little bitten marker on the side, on the back, and it means he starts taking damage each turn potentially. My learned colleague here has just passed one in, so that's what it would look like normally. And that's what it would look like. And like with most things, you can get acrylic sets of these from Mantic's website, and they're really cool. And if you've got the spare cash, I would certainly advise picking them up, just because they look awesome. And your card's going to get damaged, whereas your acrylic and plastic ones will not. What we then go down to is the special rules. Now, with this particular character, it has one called Blood Ties. So if Carl Grimes, which is his son, is in the same group as Rick and is within Rick's kill zone, then Rick gains an extra red die to his melee attacks. So that would put, as we were saying before, the melee of one white would go to 1 white and 1 red. Then if Rick has another weapon on top of that, it would add any extra. So you can see how the dice are piling up in terms of attacking. Different characters have different rules. So, for instance, this is a shooting card. It's just been handed across to myself. If this was a melee weapon, it would add 2 red. As it is, it's a ranged attack. Here's a melee one just passed across, just for pedanticness. So you can see there. So if Rick was within Carl's kill zone, or Carl was within Rick's, you would get 1 white, 1 red for that, and then you get 1 red for the baseball bat as long as you were attacking. If you were defending, the baseball bat wouldn't count, and you would get 1 white and 1 red. It's something, again, when we're talking about picking your crews and stuff, or your gangs, or your mobs, your survivors, we'll go into that in more detail so we can cover, you know, what weapons might be advantageous for certain characters. If you've got a character that has no shoot value, giving them a gun isn't going to be as effective, because they'll still get the dice rolls, as we said there, the 2 red, but they wouldn't get an actual shoot value itself. And then Rick has a leader ability, because as we said before, he is the Atlanta camp leader, which is called Stay Calm. Rick may perform this in place of a Hold Your Nerve action, where instead of rolling the black action die, and if you get a shield, it reduces it by 1. In this, he rolls a blue die, and it reduces the threat level by that many points. Rick, being a tactician, could actually reduce it by 1 for free each turn anyway, as long as he spends the action to do it. So instead of Hold Your Nerve, rolling a die, getting the shield or not, he just goes, I'm reducing it. But that, again, that's going into the different character types, and that's something we don't want to cover in this particular video. You can see down the sides, though, getting back onto the card itself, head, body, item, and then right at the bottom we have pack. Now that means that Rick can have an item on his head, such as a hat. He can wear, say, body armor, like the riot gear, etc. on that. He can have a gun in one hand, a melee weapon in the other, and then he can carry 3 particular items. Here's, for instance, the American football pads. That's a body, so it would just go there. He can't wear 2 things on his body, much like he can't wear 2 items on his head. Can't carry 2 guns in one hand, etc. But it just means, and it's a nice little layout, it means that when you've got your card down there in front of you, it's very easy to keep track of everything. If he's got body armor, it'll be up on the body. If he's wearing something on his head that's going to give him a particular skill or stat, it will be there for you to see. I mean, there's things like Carl has a lucky hat. There's bandanas and things like that. Again, it's not important. We're going to cover the equipment separately, because there's a lot of little facets to this game that add to the intricacy of it. Other than that, that's the anatomy of a card there. I'm going to end the video there, though. So take care, and hopefully you'll follow us for more.